Hello, my amazing children. It is almost the end of my Christmas break, and I want to read a couple of little stories for you. And the first one is Mr. Putter and Tabby Ring the Bell. It's been a long time since I've read a short children's book, so here we go. Remember Cynthia Rylant is one of my favorite authors, and she writes such delightful little books. So we're going back to Mr. Putter and Tabby Ring the Bell. And the first part, chapter 1, is Crispy Fall. It was fall. Mr. Putter and his fine cat Tabby loved fall. Mr. Putter liked the apples. Tabby liked the leaves. They both liked the crispy wind. There's the picture of Mr. Putter with Tabby on his shoulder, enjoying the crispy fall. And sometimes their neighbor, Mrs. Teaberry, brought them rhubarb trifle. They really liked that. Fall was fun. Ooh, doesn't that look good, what she's bringing him? Remember, she has a dog. Chapter 2, The School Bell. One day, Mr. Putter was raking leaves and Tabby was attacking the leaves. They heard the school bell ring. Dong, dong, dong. Mr. Putter stopped raking. He looked at Tabby. I miss school, said Mr. Putter. I miss pencils and books. Here's the picture of him talking to Tabby about missing school. Tabby stopped attacking. She purred. I miss globes and erasers, said Mr. Putter. Dong, 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 went the bell. I would like to go back to school, said Mr. Putter, for just one day. Mr. Putter's doing a lot of thinking, and I think that he is thinking about himself when he was a little boy. Just then, Mrs. Teaberry's good dog Zeke ran by. Zeke was wearing half of a cake on his head. The other half was inside Zeke. Mr. Putter looked at Zeke. Mr. Putter looked at Tabby. I have an idea, said Mr. Putter. Tabby purred and purred. She loved Mr. Putter's ideas. And there is Zeke running with half of a cake on his head. I wonder where he got the cake. And there's Mr. Putter. And he is about to give us his idea. Chapter 3, Mrs. Teaberry. Mr. Putter knocked on Mrs. Teaberry's door. Zeke stood beside Tabby. All of the cake was inside Zeke. There's a picture. I bet you Zeke is pretty full now. Mrs. Teaberry opened the door. There you are, she said. Yes, here I am, said Mr. Putter. No, I meant Zeke, said Mrs. Teaberry. He stole the banana cake. That was a banana cake? Asked Mr. Putter. Mr. Putter looked sad. I love banana cake, he said. So does Zeke, said Mrs. Teaberry. I think that maybe Zeke has been bad. We should not steal cakes, but it's hard to tell a dog that, isn't it? Everyone looked at Zeke. Zeke looked happy. Zeke looked fun. Zeke looked showy. Mrs. Teaberry, said Mr. Putter, I have an idea. Oh, good, said Mrs. Teaberry. I love ideas. Do you love globes and erasers? Asked Mr. Putter. Pardon me, said Mrs. Teaberry. Mr. Putter began telling her his idea, and Tabby purred and purred. Chapter 4, Pet Tricks. The first grade teacher at the school thought it was a lovely idea. "Show and tell," she said to Mrs. T-Berry on the phone. "What a good idea. The children love cats and dogs. Do yours do tricks?" There's the teacher talking to Mr. Putter on the phone. Do you think maybe they'll get to go back to school for one day? Mrs. T-Berry looked at Zeke. He was wearing his water bowl. "Sort of," said Mrs. T-Berry. "Wonderful," said the teacher. "Come right over." Mrs. T-Berry called Mr. Putter. "It worked," she said. "We're going to school." "Hooray," said Mr. Putter. "But the teacher wants pet tricks," said Mrs. T-Berry. Look at Zeke with a bowl on his head. How silly. "Pet tricks?" asked Mr. Putter. He looked at Tabby, who was napping in the soup pot. "Uh-oh," said Mr. Putter. Tabby knew how to nap. Tabby knew how to purr. But could Tabby do tricks? Can you see Tabby asleep in the soup pot? Chapter 5, Show and Tell. Mr. Putter and Tabby and Mrs. T-Berry and Zeke walked to school. They stepped through the door. "It smells just like school," said Mr. Putter. They found the first grade room. Mrs. T-Berry straightened Zeke's tie. Mr. Putter patted Tabby's head, and then they went in. Look at Zeke with a sweater and a tie on. Doesn't he look showy? Mr. Putter was in heaven. It was a room filled with books and pencils and globes and erasers, and best of all, children. Lots and lots of children. Do you think they like to have Zeke and Tabby visiting them? The teacher told the children that Tabby and Zeke could do tricks. Everybody waited. Tabby purred. Zeke scratched at his tie. No one did a trick. "Uh-oh," said Mr. Putter. "Oh dear," said Mrs. T-Berry. There they are, just kind of sitting there. The children are waiting for some tricks. Suddenly, the school bell began to ring. Dong! It was very loud. Tabby jumped straight up in the air. She landed on a little girl's lap in the front row. The little girl screamed. Dong! Zeke jumped straight up in the air. He landed in a box of cupcakes. "Don't eat all the cupcakes," the teacher yelled. What is Zeke gonna do? He doesn't listen very well, does he? Dong! Zeke ate all the cupcakes. Then Zeke did a trick. It was a good trick. Tabby did it too. Oh my goodness, there's Zeke eating every last cupcake, and Tabby is still sitting on the girl's. Well, I don't think he's on his lap her lap anymore. Tabby is wrapped around the little girl's head because he's so scared about the dong. It was a disappearing trick, and that was the end of show and tell. And out ran Zeke and Tabby, and all of the children are sitting there wondering what happened to the cat and the dog. Chapter 6, The Worst Ever. Back home, Mr. Putter made tea for Mrs. T-Berry while Tabby and Zeke napped. They looked at Zeke. His tie was full of cupcake. They looked at Tabby. Her tail was quite festive. What does Tabby have around her tail? I don't know. Could it be the little girl's hair ribbon? I'm not sure. Mr. Putter smiled. Mrs. Teaberry smiled, and then they started laughing. It had been the worst show and tell ever, but they were happy. Mr. Putter got to go to school, and Tabby and Zeke learned a few new tricks. They are all happy, even though they had a very bad show and tell day. Dear first graders, sorry about show and tell. Please accept our cupcakes and apologies. Yours truly, Mrs. Teaberry and Mr. Putter. And there are some cupcakes that Mrs. Teaberry made for all of them and the little note. So even though they had a very disastrous show and tell day, they sent some cupcakes back, and they all had a good day after all. And that is the end of Mr. Putter and Tabby Ring the Bell. And this is Grandma Carla, and I love you.